Inflammation is such a buzzword these days, and rightfully so. Inflammation, or really chronic inflammation, is a main contributor to so many preventable diseases. And the inflammatory process is super complicated. So today I'm breaking down the difference between a normal and abnormal inflammatory response and how it relates to autoimmune diseases. So before I jump in, I just need to attach a disclaimer to this video that the information in today's talk is not a substitute for the diagnosis, treatment, or care of disease by a medical provider. This is for informational purposes only. So for any changes to your medical care, please consult your qualified health professional. All right, so let's jump in. What is acute inflammation? So inflammation is the process your body goes through to protect itself and bring itself back to normal, otherwise known as homeostasis. So there are two types of inflammation. There's acute and there's chronic. Both of these follow the same series of steps. So the first thing that happens is a harmful substance or damage is detected in the body. So think about you cut yourself, or you have a virus, or you sprain your ankle. There's some sort of damage going on and your body recognizes that and says, whoa, like something's off. So when that happens, cytokines, which are these chemical mediators, and they can be inflammatory or anti-inflammatory, proteins, enzymes, are all released to help fight inflammation. So immune-fighting white blood cells will then flood to the areas of damage to start repairing tissue and remove the bacteria. So they basically kind of like gobble up all the harmful things and take them away so your body can go back to normal. So acute inflammation is a short-term event. It is like a virus or spraining your ankle or cutting your finger. With acute inflammation comes swelling. So you think about it like when you sprain your ankle, you usually have a decent amount of swelling in your ankle. And you may have a fever, and you might have like redness in the area. And it usually takes a few days to even a couple of weeks for the inflammatory process to run it's course, to really repair your body and return it back to normal. So what happens when when inflammation doesn't resolve? So chronic inflammation is a sustained inflammatory process where your cells are unable to repair the damaged tissue. So white blood cells will basically settle into the damaged areas and continue to produce these inflammatory mediators, which then recruit more white blood cells to come in and, gobble up all the harmful substances. And it creates this really vicious cycle where you're constantly releasing these chemicals that are inflammatory to recruit more cells to come in and try to fix the damage. And it's just not, and your body's not getting back to normal. So it's kind of this constant cycle. So with chronic inflammation, you're not able to get rid of the harmful substance or resolve an inflammatory response. So instead of going back to normal, your body continues to fight, or it's on this defensive mode because it knows that something is wrong, but it just can't solve it on its own. It's normal kind of process that happens. It's not working. So how is chronic inflammation and autoimmune diseases related? So there is a pretty close relationship between inflammation and autoimmune diseases. And in many diseases, chronic inflammation triggers an overactive or dysregulated immune response. So when this happens, the body can't clear out harmful substances in the body. So you have this like vicious cycle of continually recruiting white blood cells to come in and fix the damage. You may create autoantibodies that attack your body's tissues and organs. And then your immune cells also become unbalanced and may trigger attacks on tissues and organs. So it's kind of this whole dysregulated system that doesn't work properly. It doesn't work as it should. So while it remains unclear whether or not autoimmune diseases cause inflammation or inflammation causes autoimmune diseases, it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Researchers are still trying to figure this out. It's a very complicated process, but it's really important to keep in mind that chronic inflammation can exacerbate symptoms and may lead to disease progression, and it may lead to other diseases. If you look at most of the preventable chronic diseases in society, think about heart disease and diabetes and Those are the two that come to mind off the top of my head. But the underlying mechanism is inflammation. There's always inflammation there. So, again, it's really important to kind of calm the body down, start to reduce inflammation the best you can to help relieve symptoms. The other thing to keep in mind too is that chronic inflammation can suppress the immune system, and that just can lead to further tissue damage and further, issues with, fighting diseases and fighting damage and all that stuff. Like having a suppressed immune system can be really challenging, especially when your body feels like it's always on attack. All right, so what can you do to stop chronic inflammation? So the good news is there's a lot you can do to stop inflammation from, kind of continuing in this vicious cycle. Diet is a very important step. And as you can imagine, so is lifestyle, especially with exercise and stress management. So here are my top 3 tips to start reducing inflammation. So eat a diet that consists mostly of whole foods and minimal processed foods. This seems like a fairly basic concept, but it's really hard when there's so much processed convenience food surrounding us. So, anytime you have a food with a lot of sugar, with a lot of salt, with a lot of additives, gums, stabilizers, preservatives, chemicals, all of those contribute to inflammation. Even though you may not physically feel it, it can exacerbate inflammation. It can ruin your gut. They have so many horrible side effects. So just by cutting out processed foods alone, you're like halfway there to reducing inflammation in your body. Believe me, I've done it. It works. The second thing is to really move your body with moderate exercise. So if you follow me on Instagram, I've had a bunch of Friday Lives. They're also on YouTube. So, check those out about kind of the discussion between exercise and inflammation and why moderate exercise is really important. I go into a lot more detail there about those connections. So go and check those out. The last tip, get your stress under control. Stress and inflammation are closely intertwined. So by reducing your stress, you will automatically reduce inflammation. Believe me, it is much easier said than done. I am still in the process of de-stressing and working on that. It's a big one for me, but it is definitely doable. All right, so today we focused on the basics of inflammation. We focused on what acute inflammation is, what chronic inflammation is, the connection between autoimmune diseases and inflammation, and then what you can do to help start reducing inflammation. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. Click subscribe to continue to watch more great videos on the connection between inflammation and autoimmune diseases and diet and lifestyle and how you can help yourself by making some great lifestyle and diet changes. I will be back shortly with another video soon. They come, pretty much every week. So stay tuned, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks.